Well, I must say you've been a wonderful audience. And I'd like to finish now with a little song. I can always tell if an audience is going to be good or bad. Good night. Thank you. Good evening. Have we got time for more? I shall now produce from this empty cloth 4 live ducks. Oh! I got away again. Look, see that? This one's just the same look. Here's a little trick I'd like to show you now. It's a very famous egg and bag trick. Here's the egg as a bag. My teeth itch. I went to the dentist. He said my teeth are all right, but my gum's going to come out.
It was so irreverent about the human condition. I mean, because we're such... Everything about the human condition is so laughable. And that's where that's the funny bone in me. Made me laugh so much. And I watch him now, I've got tapes of him at home, and I watch him and I just... I get a little laughing. It's so childish.
Another saying will vanish in front of your very eyes. And you... Oh, my feet are killing me. They are, every night when I'm lying in bed, they get me round the throat like that, trying to straighten. Now, I want you to watch me very, very closely. And if you see any suspicious moves, don't say anything. This egg will vanish in front of your very eyes, and you won't have the slightest clue where it's gone. And yet, on the other hand, I've got 4 fingers and a thumb. Oh, dear. Look, vanish in front of your right. You haven't the slightest clue where it's gone, have you? Hey, where? Under my arm? No. Another one? No, look at that. Look at that. This one? No, look at that. Higher? How's that?
You're such an anarchist and such a fool. And the seriousness of actors has always left me cold, but people like Eric Morecambe, Tommy Cooper, Ken Dodd have always got to me because they laugh at themselves, they laugh at us, and I thought he was the greatest of them all. I think what he did was made us laugh at the fool in ourselves. I don't know, I can't analyse comedy, not being a comic myself. I envy comics, I wish I had been a comic, but I don't have that skill.
Look, it clicks on my hand, look at that. It can't fall down. Got my finger there. A solid one. Will vanish in front of your very eyes. And after the empty bag, I will produce a live duck.
I once said to Tommy, we were talking about comedians in general, sitting in his dressing room at Skegness on the pier. And he said, and Arthur Askey, he said, Arthur Askey, never stops moving. Oh, I love that. Oh, energy, energy. Goes this way, goes that way. He's walking towards you, he's walking away. And the hands are always going. And I thought, well, that's you, Tom. You do that. I didn't actually say, but did you get that from Arthur Askey? It was quite obvious that he has. By osmosis, all comedians absorb that which they can use, that they see is effective. And certainly, I never saw Tommy that some part of him was not in motion, conveying activity. And the audience always fed on that energy. They loved it.
I wander lonely as a cloud that floats over dales and hills. Right? It's a little trick. I showed my wife this. I said, look at this deer. I always call her deer. She got antlers sticking up from her head. No, I'm only joking. I got the best wife in England. The other one's in Africa. Rope Swizzers.
I was married for 36 years. We had our ups and downs. But the whole thing was we were married, and I think show business came first and then the family, or the two together. A wonderful father. No complaints there at all.
I suppose my first memory of Tommy the Performer, I think was one of his first ever shows. It would be a London Palladium, and there was a magician, an apparent magician came onto the stage, and he was going to do this wonderful trick, and he wanted 2 volunteers from the audience.
And for my first trick, I require the assistance of 2 gentlemen from the audience. 2 gentlemen carrying hats.
One was very tall, and one was very short.
Have we another gentleman with a hat?
Yes, right here, yes.
Ah! Step this way, please, sir.
They were both very formally dressed, and they had their hats. And the magician vanished an egg in each of the hats.
Now here, I have a fresh white egg, which I shall break into this gentleman's hat here, like so. Here I have another fresh white egg, which I shall break into this gentleman's hat here, like so.
With Tom, he had that wonderful expression that he could look at things. And you see, when you do it like an idiot, and I say we're all idiots because we're making a mess of this world, and the real people I love are the people who know they're idiots. It's the people who don't know they're idiots that I'm frightened of. But Tom, you see, if you look at an object, like say I'm looking at you, now Tom would go. Now that is just that much that differentiates between the people who have control of everything. Who just say, like, when did you last see your father? But
And you knew the eggs were still in the hat.
I failed. Failed. After 15 years. Failed. Failed.
And he hung it out and hung it out, and even at home, through the glass tube, which is always the hardest thing to do, we were in hysterics.
that's the quality of Tom and the quality of all these great comics that we know and love, is their vulnerability.
Zo zijn we. Toch ga je worden. What's the matter? It's the wrong hand. It's this one.
The face was a call for help, wasn't it? Please help me out of this. Please, please.
marvellous character, and honestly, he used to make me laugh. I remember I was going down to have lunch with Carl Giles, the cartoonist, and the train left from Liverpool Street Station, I think it was 10:30 then. You're coming back from Giles' luncheon. Well, I tell this story, it involves my dear friend Dennis May Wilson, and I love him, one of the greatest directors of comedy ever, Dennis, but he has got an unfortunate habit of yapping a lot. He does like to talk. And we get on this train with me and Tommy, Dennis and Dove. Tommy got up and went out, and he was gone for a long time, and finally Dove said, Johnny, I'm getting worried about Tommy. I said, oh, yeah, he has been gone a while. He said, well, look, could you find out where he is? Have a look. So I thought, right, fine. So I get up and go out of the compartment, walk along to the toilet, and it's got engaged on it. I bang on the toilet, there's no answer. I bang again, there's no answer. And so I saw one of the guard coming along, and I said, look, don't make any fuss. I said, there's probably nothing, but a good friend of mine, Tommy Cooper, went to the toilet. I mean, he's been gone for a long, long time. I'm wondering, is there any way we can have a look in, you know? And he said, yeah, sure, I've got the key. So he opened the toilet door, and he said, oh, hang on, he was pushing it, you see. I thought, oh, Christ, what's happened, you know? And he shoved again, and suddenly his head came round the door, and Tommy was sitting in the toilet with his back to the door, you see, his feet stretched out. He's a big man in this field. His head came round the door, and he said, has he stopped talking yet?
I was in Margate last summer for the summer season. A friend of mine said, you want to go to Margate? It's good for rheumatism. So I did, and I got it. And while I was there, I bought one of these skin diving outfits. Let me see, like a frogman suit. Bought the whole thing, you know, goggles, big flippers, tank on the back, and I had a photograph taken like that and like that. Well, you never know, do you? You never know. And I went to the bay and I jumped in, because you're not supposed to dive and it's dangerous. And I jumped in like that, and I think I turned a little bit all the way down. And I went down to about 155 feet. It was lovely, very quiet. And I'm going along like that. I got the instructions here. And I get rid of them and I start to do that like that. And all of a sudden I saw a man walking towards me. In a sports jacket, grey flannels. I thought, that's unusual for a Thursday. So I went towards him, I was moving like lightning. And I got right up to him, I took this pad out, and I wrote on it, what are you doing down here? Walking about in a sports jacket, grey flannels. And he took this pad from me, and he wrote on there, I'm drowning.
But I used to like the silly one-liners, like, I stood there with my wife, like that. No, she was like that. No, like that she was. She was reading a magazine, and she showed me a photograph of a fur coat. She said, I'd like to have that, so I cut it out and gave it to her. Ha, 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 ha. She's like that, see. She said, when we first got married, you said you could have eaten me. I said, I wish I had now. Ha, ha, ha. I went to the doctor. I said, what can I do? She said, I broke my arm in 3 places. He said, well, don't go back there anymore. Oh, dear, oh, dear.
He threw the jokes away, the way he threw away the juggling birds, and the way he threw away the parrot that came out of the wrong sleeve and all that stuff. When he said he backed a horse at 5 to 3 and it came in at 4:20 or so, he would say it like that, as if the whole thing was consigned to oblivion. So the line came out as if it wasn't worth saying and tossed away. So you were always leaning forward, trying to catch the bits that he was discarding as he went.
Oh, what a day I've had. I went to see my doctor. I had to, he's ill. And he said to me, he said, can I help you? I said, yes.
I said, I got a bit of a sore throat. He said, open up, swallow like that. And he looked at it like that. He said, a little raw. So I went, ah.
He said, I want you lying down on the couch. I said, what for? He said, I want to sweep up.
So I went behind this curtain, I adjusted, he checked me all over. As I came out, I put my clothes on. He gave me a complete checkup. I said, writing a prescription. He said, no, he was looking very sad. I said, what is it? Give it to me straight. How ill am I? And he looked at me, he said, let me put it this way. Don't put on any long-playing records.
And he said to me, he said, can I help you? I said, yes. I said, I get these terrible dreams. He said, what's that? I said, I keep dreaming these beautiful girls keep coming towards me.
Come towards me like that. I said, just over like that. And I do this. I push them away.
He said, what do you want me to do? I said, break me on.
I think he wasn't a very well man. I don't think he was a hypochondriac as such, because had he been a hypochondriac, he would have looked after himself. And to my knowledge, all the time I spent with him, he never really looked after himself.
Tommy said he'd given up alcohol and smoking because we knew how bad his lungs were. Whereupon he promptly popped open a tin of lager and started smoking a cigarillo. And I said to him, I thought you'd packed it in. And he said, you can't call this drinking. That's not smoking. So nothing could have stopped him. He was an unstoppable man.
He suffered terribly with his legs, you know. I mean, how he stood up was beyond me.
What is it? Hey, what is it? What is it? What is it?
And thus it was on this last appearance that Tommy made with me, his last but one on TV, that he made an entrance that absolutely put me on the floor. And I am certain he had planned it together with our producer in order to put me on the floor.
Oh, God. Oh, dear. I never know what's going to happen.
I know.
This is part of Tommy's marvelous ability to use his body. He strutted like a chicken, and he used the legs of the props to convey this effect. It was very, very, very funny. Though for the life of me, I would never have written it into a script for anybody else to do. I wouldn't have written it into a script at all. It's not the sort of joke that you'd think of. Tommy would think of it. Tommy would hear chicken legs were available, and therefore he'd want them.
Play some music, please! Anything! That's all right now.
It was such anarchy, and the courage to just go on and make a mess of everything. I mean, that's a rare gift, isn't it? I mean, everyone strives to be perfect. Everyone strives to go on and get it all right, you know, actors especially, you know, learn your lines, go on, hit the right marks, you know, and do this, do that, everything's in order. But he came on, and I'm sure it was all, I suppose, I'm told that he rehearsed methodically. I don't know how true that was. But it looked like total anarchy and total chaos.
Say hello to everybody. Right, here we go then. Say hello. That's it. Say hello. Come on. What are you going to sing then? What are you going to sing? I can't find the string. You're going to sing Guy Blues. Here we go then. Guy Blues. Guy. Bed now. Say goodnight, is it? Get in there! Oh! Sure. You want to sing one more song, huh? One more song. Jar Jar Spoon! Spoon Jar Jar. What about that smoking Joe? Spoon Jar Jar Spoon, Spoon Jar Jar. Spoon Jar, Spoon Jar Jar, Spoon Spoon. Stop! Stop! Well, pull it, pull it.
All comedians went to watch him. And he could tell the oldest gag or the newest gag. I mean, he had some of Max Miller's type of delivery at times with jokes, believe it or not. And he was wonderful. And if he was on anywhere, for instance, Manchester, I remember there was a club there called Mr. Smith's. And I went in one night, and right away, Eric Morecambe was in there, Norman Vaughan, Dora Bryan, Roy Castle, and myself. And he came on, and you just laughed as soon as he came on. He had several types of entrances, but this night, genuinely, a tray of drinks went over. The waiter, genuinely, not a gag, it went in the middle. And there was a huge crash. Now, we're all waiting to see which ad-lib he uses, you know, and gets a roar with it. It was manna for a comic, this happening. And he just looked, waited, and he went, oh, that's nice. Well, we all fell on the floor.
It is funny. It's not you, is it?
I met him only once, alas, and the whole thing turned into a Tommy Cooper sketch. It was in one of those fantastically dreadful cafeterias that you have in television companies that did 20 years ago. And he was queuing for tea, and I was queuing for tea behind him. I did one of those, the things you should never say, like, I have to tell you this, but, you know, without you, etc., dot, dot. He said, oh, that's nice. He said, you've made my day. The very moment he said, you've made my day, I spilled 6 cups of tea all over the tray and all over him. And from then on, it was a Cooper sketch of picking up cups. And I thought, it wasn't supposed to be like this.
Would you care for a cup of tea?
Thank you. Ah, thank you very much.
Thomas, go have a drink. Have a drop of whiskey. There you are. As a matter of fact, she hasn't told us much about you.
There's a green fly in there.
I beg your pardon?
But he's happy. He's looking at him swimming about.
Well, now, I don't suppose my daughter will be very long, Thomas, so you and I can get to know each other.
Would you care for a sandwich?
I mean, Thomas, what are your intentions?
Well, I thought we'd go to the pictures.
No. I think Father means after that.
Well, between you and me, I like to drag her in her shop doorway. And with a bit of luck.
Yes, quite. But that's no concern of ours, of course, is it? Here, have a cigar. There we are. That's it. That's the fellow. That's better.
You're not eating your sandwiches. And do have a piece of my homemade cake.
He was that very rare thing, a droll. They're very rare. First of all, they must look funny. The moment he would come on, I would crease up. Don't ask me why. There was this face and this huge body. He used to wear these boots to make himself look more clumsy, and that was it. He could do anything after that to me. He could do that all night. He didn't have to do anything for me. He just was a magical droll. Yeah.
My first days as a TV critic, when I was trying too hard, I think I once described Cooper as a mutant begot by a heavyweight boxer in a car crash in Baghdad. I think I was trying to encapsulate his extraordinary appearance, including the fez. And he did have a flying start in the way he looked.
You were born during a thunderstorm on 4th December 1922.
Good guess.
At 3:10 in the morning.
You're right. This is fantastic. I can't believe it. How do you know all this? I should do. I'm your mother.
Tommy's father came from Caerphilly and his mother from Devonshire. And they went to see the relatives at Caerphilly, and Grandma was about 7 months pregnant. And they went over the valley to the pictures. And when they got home, Tommy arrived, and the doctor threw him down the bottom of the bed and gave him up. He was such a poor little thing. And Grandma kept him alive on drops of brandy and condensed milk. And he grew up to be 6'4".
Well, I was born at a very early age. I cried just like a baby. No, I was born in Caerphilly, Wales.
Really? Where'd you go after that?
Well, when I was in Caerphilly, Wales, I left there when I was a year old because I got too serious with the girl next door.
A friend of mine said to me this morning, he said he was Welsh. I couldn't believe he was Welsh because he's got no trace of a Welsh accent. And he talks like a Londoner, doesn't he? I was like that. He talks just like a Londoner. He doesn't talk like a Welshman at all. So I am surprised.
He went to Radcliffe College in Exeter, and he was very happy there. And then he was apprenticed to be a shipwright. And he got the sack because he was doing tricks to show his mates that his aunt had given him a box of tricks for Christmas. And he got the sack.
By the way, when did you first start magic?
Well, I started when I was about 8 years old. My auntie in Exeter gave me my first set.
Your auntie? Would you like to talk to her now?
Can I do that?
Do, please.
All right. Well, look, auntie, if you're watching, thank you very much for that magic set, but I still can't do the tricks.
He always calls me Duff. Never called me anything else. And anything less like a dove, well, you can imagine, but he always called me Duff. In Egypt, and I was sent to Alexandria on a Christmas Eve to be a pianist in the show because I read music. And I said to this big man, give me your dots. And I got any, just play the Sheik of Araby. I just fell. That was it. A very big man with the most beautiful blue eyes. I just fell in love with him. And then 6 weeks later, I married him.
In World War II, Tommy.
I remember it.
Yes. It was in all the papers. Come on.
Yes.
You were one of the stars in Battle Dress, right?
Well, I was eventually, but I was in the Horse Guards first. I was 7 years in the Horse Guards.
7 years?
Yes. Big horses, 17 hands. No feet, just hands. So, and then we used to go out on manoeuvres, and to about 4 o'clock in the morning. And when we came back, 4 o'clock, we had to clean the horse, groom the horses, do all the saddle, all the bits, and the stirrups, and everything. Then we used to go up into the barrack room. Now, there's always a barrack room lawyer, isn't there?
Yeah.
And he's always saying, we're not allowed to do this, we can't do this. There's always one. We're not entitled to do that. We're not entitled to do the King rules and regulations. We're not entitled to do that, I tell you that. I see, and I listened to him, Clothhead. And the sergeant came in, he said, rifle inspection in 10 minutes. See? And he went out, and he came, and he said, I'm not going to do mine. He said, no, I'm not going to do mine at all. And he said, no, he said, rule 28, page 28. And he went, no. And I believed him. I did, I believed him. Sergeant came in, he said, right, get your rifles ready. I stood up and said, we're not clean. He looked at me, he went, what? And his eyes went like Clint Eastwood. What? I said, we're not cleaning them. Are we, fellas? Fellas?
His first job was at Collins Music Hall for £5 a week. And I got a job in Pontings and then Ball and Hollingsworth in Oxford Street as a floor manager. And that kept us going. And then things started to happen. And Tommy got a job at the Windermere Club, and that was the start of his career. He had all his props in a case, and he was stopped by a policeman one night about 3 in the morning, and the policeman nearly passed out when he saw a load of props and a skull in the case.
So this policeman stopped me, so I thought I'd have a joke with him. So he said, "What have you got in that grip there?" Just like that, a bit harsh he was. I said, "What have I got in there?" He said, I said, "In there I've got sugar for my tea." He said, "What have you got in that one?" I said, "I've got sugar for my coffee." And he took his little truncheon out and he went, boom! He said, "There's a lump for your cocoa."
But the first time I'd ever met him was at the Cambridge Theatre, 1949 or 50. During that first week, Tommy, in the dressing room, took off his shirt and handed me a stick of makeup, like a stick of quite dark makeup, and said, do me a favour. I don't do a very good Tommy Cooper. You'll have to buy this as being the best I can do. Do me a favour. Write something on my back for me." So I said, "Certainly." "Write B-A-C-K." So I wrote B-A-C-K across his shoulder blades, and he put his shirt back on. He said, "I should end the confusion."
I can't help laughing. I know what's coming next.
He did a great after-dinner speech at the Water Rats Ball. And this man, 6'6", I think he was, he stood up. That's all he did. He just stood up. And the place was in absolute hysterics. But a man standing up. Now, I don't care how much you study comedy, you can't define that. That ability to fill a room with laughter because you are emanating being funny. And after several minutes of solid laughter, he looked down at his wife and said, "I haven't said anything yet." And woof, up it went again.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, from now on, this speech goes downhill a bit. What?
You've got to put your face on.
Not yet, not yet. I told you to wait in the truck, didn't I? Your own wife echoes he has, good, isn't it? I was cleaning up the attic last week with the wife. Filthy, dirty, covered in cobwebs. But she's good to the kids. And I found his old violin. His old violin. And this painting, all painted. So I took him to an expert, and he said to me, "What you got there?" He said, "You've got a Stradivarius and a Rembrandt." Unfortunately, Stradivarius was a terrible painter. And Rembrandt made rotten violins.
And they had a chiming clock at home. And it seems that he'd come home from the pub, and I think he'd had a few, and words led to words, as they do, with all husbands and wives. And she's gone potty, and she slung this clock at him, which she's done out the way. It's hit the wall and dropped down, and it chimed, "There's no place like home." And the two of them just fell about, you know. I don't think you could be annoyed with him for a long time. Well, I'm sure you couldn't.
He took my alarm clock for television, and I hunted high and low for this alarm clock. And when I saw it, he was doing that trick, watch.
What?
He had my alarm clock on the stage, which I'd been hunting high and low for. That wasn't very funny either.
He never knew any idea of time, of how long he'd done. Timing, brilliant. time itself meant nothing to him.
We were doing one of our shows together in a thing, and I had to meet him. I was going to meet him at in a little pub next to Thames Television at 12 o'clock. Now, 12 o'clock, there's nobody there, you see. And it's fairly good, so I thought, well, there's him, and there's the producer, and there's me. So now I'm directing it and everything, having written it. So it'd be a nice time, too. So it comes 12 o'clock, like 12:15, and it's starting to fill up a bit, and I said to him, he's late, you know, I don't like Tom when he's late. And he knows that I like people to be on time. And he said to me, he said, you can't tell Tom off. I said, yeah, well, I think it's time I did. And it was 12:30, I said, right, now I was really getting, but I said, I'll tell him when he comes. Well, obviously, Tom must have got the vibes because he knew that I like punctuality. So it's 1:45 now, it's 3/4 of an hour later, and the pub is practically full. And the door opened, and Tom stood at the door, and he had a bowler hat and his pajamas. And he's standing at the door, and everybody looked around like that. And he walked straight up the table where I was sitting, and he stood, he said, I'm sorry, I couldn't get up.
He used to be in bed, and the ITV were phoning me up, where's Tommy? And he was in bed, and I used to go crazy, pull the bedclothes off him and have a terrible row. He was always late, it was awful. He nearly gave me a breakdown. He couldn't have been early if he'd tried.
I remember playing golf with him when I was a kid, and he invited us back for lunch, Dennis King, his brother and I, and we were living on, if you like, chip butties and packets of crisps and the odd lemonade, you know. We had no money or nothing. He said, come back, she's made a roast lunch. Well, I mean, it was like going home to Mum, wasn't it? You know, roast lunch and gravy and roast potatoes. And he said, he was in a rented house, you know, from Blackpool. He said, just wait here, up the lobby. And she cooked this beautiful dinner. And he said, they're not coming. They decided to play another 9 holes. She said, they're not coming. They're not so-and-so coming. And all the magic words were coming out. And she went, they're not coming. Well, I'll tell you what. And she came out, and we were in the corridor, and she went, oh, hello, boys. Isn't he naughty? And well, we fell on the floor, you know. I can see that now. That was great.
He was terrible to live with before a show, because he was a bundle of nerves. And then after the show, he'd buy me flowers. And that's it.
Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to show you this wonderful trick now from the empty vase or vase. I will now produce a bouquet of flowers. A bouquet of flowers. God, dear. Thank you.